joining us on the Person to Person Network. Welcome to Profiles in STEM. Our career series will feature an amazing STEM professional who is shaping lives and building the future. I'm your host, Katie Culbert, and if you haven't already done so, please leave a like and subscribe to our network. Joining me today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Reedy. Dr. Reedy is the co-founder and the CEO of Data Classroom, a web-based app that lets students engage with data and conduct real data analysis. Dr. Reedy was previously a National Science Foundation postdoctoral fellow at Auburn University, and he received his doctorate in biology from the University of Virginia. Prior to graduate school, Dr. Reedy taught biology and zoology in Chicago public schools. Dr. Reedy, welcome to our program.
Thanks for having me, Katie.
It's a pleasure to have you, Dr. Reedy. So every career has a beginning. Can you pinpoint for us a particular moment when you first decided to pursue a career in STEM?
Sure. I don't know that I can actually pinpoint one particular minute, because for as long as I can remember, just thinking like a scientist has been a part of my identity. As a kid, I was really into all manner of science kits and chemistry kits, and was like to collect insects and record observations, conduct sort of experiments in my backyard or my garage. So I've kind of always thought of myself as a scientist. And to tell you the truth, I don't know that I've ever considered any career that wasn't STEM related in some way.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Dr. Reedy. I think that it's really cool that you knew from a young age that you wanted to pursue something in STEM and always stuck with it. So, Dr. Reedy, you first started your career in teaching. Can you tell us how that experience has influenced you even today?
Yeah, it's influenced me greatly. I will say, like, I think that teaching is the hardest job there is. Like both from just a workload standpoint and an emotional standpoint. It's just a really intense career. But one thing that I think teaching high school on the south side of Chicago gave me was just the confidence from having done a really hard job that's really varied, that has a leadership aspect to it, has a planning aspect to it, has a knowledge aspect to it. I think it really set me up to be flexible in the challenges that I take in my work environment. And actually, I have to say, like, everything I've done since then, which at times has been intense, but I don't think any of it has been quite as much of a challenge as running my classroom on the south side of Chicago was.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Dr. Reedy. I can definitely agree that teaching is very hard, especially when you have a wide range of kids, all who learn in different ways, and you have to make sure that they're all engaged in understanding the material. And I think it's also really motivating to have a teacher that was a teacher and then became a doctor and got their doctorate. So can you tell us what inspired you to continue your education and for you to pursue your doctorate and fellowship in biology?
Yeah, well, I think the thing that inspired me was just continually making the choice to do the things that got me intellectually excited. And when I was teaching in Chicago, I developed what I call a science habit, where in the summers I was really getting deeper and or more deeply involved in research with really each passing summer, and that translated into my classroom. And we were doing more independent research projects in my classroom. I guess kind of two events were pretty key in that. One was a fellowship from an organization called Fund for Teachers, and I designed a research study. And I paddled a kayak 1,000 miles down the Mississippi River and sampled water quality along the way as part of my study. And I just learned a whole lot about how you practice science. And to be quite honest with you, I was really a novice, and that project was pretty amateurish by my current standards. But it was a lot of fun, and it got me really excited about collecting data and teaching kids science through the act of doing science. And then the other thing that I think was really influential, I started working with a lab out of Iowa State University at a research site that they affectionately call Turtle Camp. And it's on an island in the Mississippi River between Illinois and Iowa. And every summer, for 3 summers in a row, I would work out there assist with their research on painted turtles. But I was also leading groups of students out there. It was a really cool program where they would recruit kids from the south side of Chicago as well as rural Iowa, and they would go out to the field site for 2 weeks. They would conduct some original research on turtles or lizards or snakes that were found locally. It was just a really great learning experience to be a part of. And in doing that, as I got more serious about sort of facilitating student research, I got really curious about what it would be like to conduct research in, a top research institution where I had a real lab and some funding to do so. And that was really the thing that got me to apply to graduate school and pursue a PhD. It wasn't any kind of career plan of like, oh, I'm going to get this degree and then next I'm going to do this. It was just, oh, wait, I could go to graduate school and basically my whole job is to be a scientist. And so that, after 7 years in the classroom, I decided to give that a try.
Thank you so much for sharing that inspirational story with us. And I think it's really nice that you shared with the audience, like you didn't have a specific plan. It just kind of formulated as your life went on. And I also thought something that was interesting is as you pursued like your career and building on it, you also brought in students to whatever you did. So Dr. Reedy,
and that was always fun too.
Yeah. I, as a student, really appreciate when teachers help us and like give us opportunities. And so, Dr. Reedy, you are both an educator and a scientist and have developed an amazing digital tool which helps students like me. Can you tell us more about your data analytics website, Data Classroom? What inspired you to create it, and how and what can students use it for?
Yeah, if I still kind of shake my head sometimes and just like I never would have imagined that I would be running an educational technology company. That's not something that I thought I would end up doing. But the inspiration really came from it after leaving the classroom and then undergoing my PhD training. Really found that the thing that I was doing most of the year was crunching numbers and working with data, and that hadn't been a very big part of the science classes that I was teaching. And so it just felt strange that as a working scientist, most of what I did was use computers to work with data. And now I study wild lizard populations out on islands. So there was some weeks of the year where, I was out in the field, collecting and marking animals, recording data, but that was only 6 or 8 weeks a year tops. And most of what I was doing was working on a computer with data. So the inspiration was really after my eyes were open to what the day-to-day duties were of a scientist. I just started thinking, well, science education would really benefit from tools that allowed students to work with data. So in my own classroom, we had used Excel, and I just didn't think that was cutting it it didn't let students do the kinds of things with data that I was doing as a scientist in tools like R and Python and SAS and JMP and all these other host of digital tools. So I kind of formulated the idea for Data Classroom and thought, wouldn't it be great if we could make a tool that lets kids actually act like scientists and work with their own data? And then I had that idea and held on to it for a while, and then just through sort of chance, met someone who was a high level software engineer. His name's Dan Temple. He's not now my current business partner in Data Classroom. And we just started putting our heads together about how to build this tool, built a first prototype. And, from there, pretty much as soon as we got it out into the world, people started using it. And that, that sort of confirmed that this is something that will help real students in classes, and that was inspiring to keep going.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Dr. Reedy. And any of the viewers, I highly encourage you to check out his website. It is extremely helpful. I am personally conducting my own research, and through his website and through his help as a mentor, I was able to run my data analysis really easily instead of having to try and learn R, which is a whole new coding language, and I was so confused with it from the start. So it's really an easy way to run your data analysis and be able to act like a scientist.
Yeah, and just if I can just respond to that a little bit too. Well, one, thanks for saying that, but two, I think R definitely has its purpose. It is the preferred statistical analysis tool for professional biology. But I think there's a huge gap in the way people work with data in, say, Excel or Sheets to R. And that's one of the things I really hope to do with Data Classroom, is make it easier for students to bridge to R. And in the we have a university level version of the tool that we call Data Classroom U, and it focuses a lot on helping students make that transition to R. Yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, because I originally learned how to go through data on like Excel, so trying to transition to R was really hard, and I think your website is really helpful on making that transition over. And so, although Data Classroom keeps you very busy, I also know you are still involved in research. Without getting too technical, can you provide our audience with a brief overview of the type of research you are currently conducting?
Yeah, there's sort of two tracks of research that I'm somewhat active in right now. One is the stuff that I did throughout grad school and my postdoc fellowship, and that's largely focused on natural selection of lizards in the wild, and specifically how natural selection often acts differently on males and females on shared traits. I also kind of have done a lot of thinking about the lifespan of an animal as its trait, and look, I'm really interested at looking at species where males live shorter lives than females, as they do in humans on average, and as it was in the brown and old lizards that I studied. So that's kind of one whole area of research. And then the other area that I've gotten more involved in recently is studying how novices learn to work with data, and through collaborators at Michigan State University and University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I've started getting into that world to study how how learners learn to work with data, how they learn to read graphs, how they represent things. And so that work with Michigan State and UT is ongoing, and I hope to be starting some new projects with University of Virginia and University of Minnesota this winter, where we'll start looking at those kinds of questions about how students learn with data, specifically in the college classroom as well. So that's a new area of research for me, but it meshes well with Data Classroom, and it also helps inform the design decisions that we make as we build our tools.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us, Dr. Reedy. I think it's really cool that you don't have to choose to just focus on Data Classroom, but you're still able to conduct research. And it's cool how they like blend together and almost help each other and help you create a better website for everyone.
They do definitely help each other. I think being a practicing researcher does help a lot with the design. Um, it is a little bit tough that I do not have a lot of time left over for research. Running the company is pretty full on, but it helps to have great collaborators, so I can contribute to those projects and keep them moving forward, make contributions in the time that I do have.
Yeah, as everyone always says, teamwork makes the dream work, and having a team to rely on just helps
So
make
I've
everything
said that
easier.
to my own kids a few times.
So, Dr. Reedy, we've explored many areas today. Is there something else you would like to share with our audience as they explore STEM and careers in STEM?
Well, I guess I would just say that there's such a wide variety of STEM careers, and that even in my experience of working with undergraduate students at University of Virginia and Auburn University, I feel like not a lot of students realize how broad the sciences are as a career outside of, say, things like medicine. They think, oh, I like science, I'll be a doctor, I'll be a medical doctor. Um, but there really are so many different ways to apply scientific skills to careers, and in particular, the if you learn to work with data as a scientist, that area is absolutely exploding, and it's making a lot of really great jobs that are intellectually stimulating and actually pay very well as well. So I would say if you're interested in science, my advice would be to look around and really see what is available as you navigate your own way in a career.
Thank you so much for sharing that advice. One of the main reasons or purposes of profiles is to help kids explore the different areas within STEM. And I think you really just highlighted the main purpose of this show. So I would like to thank my special guest, Dr. Erin Reedy. Dr. Reedy, it was truly an honor speaking with you today. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Katie.
Thank you for joining us. And to our viewers, please join us again for another exciting episode and another remarkable STEM professional. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our network. You have been listening to Profiles in STEM. Thank you. Katie Culbert signing off.